You once said your best 3 years as a pro was 74, 75, 76, all in the ABA with the New York Nets. What was it about that time, and where do you feel your game was at that time?
I always kind of looked at this thing like I was in Lou Alcindor's shadow.
Mm.
Because we both came out of New York. He came out a couple of years ahead of me, and he was, from the city, and I was from the suburbs, and whatever. But just in comparisons, so I always, looked at his accomplishments in college, and being the best player in the game, high school, college, whatever. So that was the bar. That's where the bar was. Everybody else was maybe reachable, but he was not reachable, and not in the exact terms. So there was a lot of gratification, when we swept the Lakers
Mm-hmm.
in '83. It was like, man, relief.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't in that shadow no more.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to Moses
Yeah.
and others. So 74, 5, and 6, and I was co-MVP one year with George McGinnis, and
Okay.
the other 2 years I was MVP in 74 and 76, and had to give him his props. And there was a reason why too, but I'll talk about that a little later maybe. I think with Kevin Lockery, and even though all of my coaches were former players, he was a guard, and guards are supposed to be coaches on the floor or whatever. So he was true to form in that regard, where when he came off the floor, he was already the coach. He didn't need this break-in period. And in all fairness to Billy Cunningham, he needed a break-in period, and he had Chuck Daly right there. So he had a good break-in period, but it took 3 or 4 years. And then he got it. And when he got it, he owned it. But Lockery owned it right from day one. And, when I got traded to the Nets, everything was in position for, me to go from good to great. And the greatness came from the coach basically saying, look, after first quarter or maybe at halftime, he'd come over, he'd say, all right, we got this game plan. And we've gone through this multiple times, and it ain't working. So you need to do some stuff out there. You need to do some stuff out there to make us look like we know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And why did he say that? So we had isolation plays. We played up tempo, and on the defensive end, there was just freedom where I knew even if I made a mistake, I wasn't gonna get yanked out of the game. And when you have that,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys have had that at one place or another or whatever, it's just like sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
Anything can happen. And Iceman always talks about, man, when we came to town, we were putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like that, putting on a show, and not being micromanaged, and not worried about anything, because just mistakes happen.
Yep.
The game is all about making mistakes, and who makes the less mistakes sometimes is the one that prevails,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. But you're going to make mistakes, and if you don't try stuff,
Yep.
trying to play the perfect game, that's not going to work. So I think those 3 years, the first year, our chemistry, we just came together, and we won that championship against Utah. We played well against every team in the league. Second year, we played well. I think we had best record. We had home court advantage, and but there was a fatigue factor, because we had played through the finals the previous year, And at the end of the season, you know, we're still grinding it out, and whatever, and you know, playing. Everybody's fought the starting lineups playing long minutes
Mm-hmm.
and what have you. And that first round, man, St. Louis took us out. We had beaten them like 11 times
That was
during the
gas.
season, and we were gassed. We were gassed. And Lockery said, okay, next season, last month of the season, you could leave town, you could just stay home, whatever. I'm not playing you in the fourth quarter.
Mm.
He said, whatever you're going to do, you better do it in 3 quarters. And so I was trying to do it in 3 quarters, and I had like a 29-point scoring average, doing with 28, 27, 26. But that wasn't the deal. The deal was getting the rest.
Yeah, being ready
before the season, before the playoffs started.
Yep.
And then that last year, you know, Denver was a better team, but you know, we were a better playoff team, and we were ready, and we had rested players, particularly me. And I remember that like it was yesterday, because I wasn't happy about not playing the fourth quarter,
it's knocking your points per game down.
Yep. You had the stat, but you had to throw the stats away.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about the stats now. And he was right. He was right.
It helped. 2 questions before we go on. What was the chemistry like when George Gervin came? Was there a whose team was it? Or?
Y'all are. It's funny y'all play together because y'all the 2 coolest cats. You ever come across.
Yeah. When George came, I went down to the arena because I knew they were bringing him in.
Mm-hmm.
And all I knew was he was a bad man. He was from Detroit. He went to Eastern Michigan, and he got in a little trouble.
Mm-hmm.
He got booted from the team, so on and so forth, or whatever. So I didn't know whether it was a badass guy, good guy, or whatever, you know. And he came in, and he was like, you know, 6'7", 160 something,
crazy,
whatever. I was like, look at this dude, man. And then he started shooting, because they had him shooting around the perimeter, the 3-point line, shooting for his contract.
Really?
And he was flipping it up there so easy. I was like, damn, this is bad right here, right? Mm-hmm. And his boy was with him, who was always with him, this guy. So he gets signed on the team, and they want to, Al Bianchi wanted to bring him off the bench. So he brought him off the bench, and George, you know, I was scoring like 30, and George was scoring like 15, but it was the easy 15 because he's just coming off the bench, and he was content with that. He was just happy to be employed and be a squire. So, as a way of bonding, I like to, because this happened to me. Ray Scott did it with me, where after practice, he said, you stay and do some extra work with me. So Ray Scott did that with me. So I used to do that with George. Everybody would leave. We'd be in there playing one-on-one. And, you know, we developed a bond, you know, during that time. And
what were those games like, though? Don't just slide past
that.
What were those one-on-one battles like?
So I think one-on-one physically, you know, he could outshoot me. There's no question, because my game wasn't just shooting. You know, it was taking it to the rack. I get way off you, you know, shoot it. I think I probably won most of the games, I would have to say unequivocally, because I was a little more experienced and I could be more physical than him. But I could see how good he was. I could see how good he was. And you know, and I honored that, because we only played together half a season.
Okay.
I don't even think it was a half season, because he came in the midpoint, and then he played the rest of that season. And then the next year, I was gone. It was his team. It was his team, and it was his team till he got traded to San Antonio. But the experience that we had together, we've held on to that all these years. You know, even with the Big 3 stuff. You know, we down there now, and you know, we got stories to tell. Anybody asks, we got some stuff to tell them. From our Virginia Squires days.